Well, I wondered what I would be looking out at this morning. I thought, are you going to be all bleary-eyed after revelling yesterday? We've had, I think the Waterman's Arms has appeared a couple of times, hasn't it, in the national press? I thought you might all be, maybe those of you who aren't here are the worst for it. Maybe those of you who are joining us at home, maybe some of you in that category. So our reaction to things can really differ, can't it? We can want to, at this stage, to feel liberated and to go out there and enjoy all the freedoms that perhaps we have been denied over the past few weeks. Conversely, we can be talking to the next person who feels absolutely the reverse, often for very good reasons, if they have experienced COVID-19 or have been working in an environment where they have been supporting many who have suffered, or indeed simply have conditions where that is a natural anxiety. A completely different reaction to the same set of circumstances, and in a sense this dilemma about how we respond to a situation has been present for all of us at different levels over these past few months. It's something that the government have had to wrestle with throughout, not always entirely successfully, you might think. It's something that as businesses, as organisations, as individuals, as households, we've all had to decide, can I do that? Should I do that? Is it right to do that? What is the right course of action? It's something the church has had to wrestle with. When was the right time to close? When was the right time to open up? And very strong views about whether the Archbishop of Canterbury and the bishops took the right decisions or not. And this wrestling with decisions and how we should take those decisions is something that our readings today give us some very helpful tools in knowing how to address. St. Paul in the epistle is wrestling with the difficulty of taking decisions, or rather that we think we're taking one type of decision, taking the right decision, trying to do the right thing, and we find ourselves doing the wrong thing. St. Paul, of all people, it's so striking that he confesses that when he tries to do the right thing, the wrong thing seems always, or very often, to happen. And that's something that we all experience, isn't it? And it's summed up in those words that Jesus says to the disciples in the Garden of Gethsemane. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. The flesh in the same way that St. Paul describes in our reading this morning. And he's talking about that old-fashioned word sin, talking about how we are gripped by this force that means that if we simply try to do our best, it doesn't quite work out. It's not a matter of willpower, St. Paul says, and you thought of all people, goodness, he was one who had a lot of willpower, didn't he? But willpower, self-help, self-improvement is not enough to be able to achieve what we need to achieve. And this discourse in the letter to the Romans comes in a whole section when Paul is wrestling with the nature of the law, the Jewish law that he has been is steeped in, the rules and regulations of the faith. And that they don't save us from that problem either. They represent the highest of ideals of what we want to do. The law is not to be broken, and yet the law doesn't fix us. So he's really exasperated, isn't he, Paul? And that's why he says, who will rescue me? Who will rescue me? Who will rescue him? Thanks be to God in Jesus Christ. And so we come to our gospel, where we have Jesus talking about those dilemmas that I was referring to at the start, that John comes ascetic, not eating, not drinking, an austere message, a bracing message, and people criticise him for that. There's too much austerity in that religion, isn't there? People turn away from that. So Jesus stands out in hospitality to the so-called sinners, the tax collectors, the prostitutes, those on the margins. And of course, he's criticised for that. So there's criticism of the kind of decisions that Jesus has taken, it makes there. And yet, what does he say? He says that he thanks God that these things are hidden from the wise and the intelligent. Perhaps a little bit of irony there about those who think they are wise and think they are intelligent. And these mysteries are revealed to the infants, to the little people. So we might like to translate ourselves as being among those little people. Indeed, during the past few weeks and months, we've discovered the value of those who our society has often labelled as the little people, those who are unskilled, those who are on the margins, those who are not worthy of much attention, are the very ones who our community and our society have been absolutely reliant on over these past few weeks and months. So Jesus says these things are going to be revealed to those who don't put their willpower and their regulations first and foremost. It's to the ones who open themselves to God's love. And who is the God that we open ourselves to? It is the God who says, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Some of the loveliest words, aren't they, in Scripture. We know that we can lay our burdens upon Christ. And this has been a disorientating time at best for everybody, hasn't it? Even those of us who have found this an energizing time by being able to do things differently or being able to enjoy life at a slower pace. Even for us, it has been disorientating. But in many other ways, there are huge burdens that are perhaps only now starting to be revealed as a result of this period. Jesus says, bring those burdens to me. If we'd had the Old Testament reading set for today from the prophet Zephaniah, there's the reading about Jesus, it alludes to what we now would read as Jesus coming into Jerusalem on a colt. So we can think, as we lay our burdens on him, literally he took our burdens upon him. The donkey, the colt, carries the burden of Christ entering Jerusalem, and on the cross he takes all of our burdens upon him. And so as we wrestle with the right decisions to make in our own lives, as we reflect on those things that we wish to do perhaps differently as individuals, as a community, as a church, as a society, what will guide us? It won't simply be a matter of sheer willpower. It won't simply be referring to a set of regulations, religious or otherwise, that will guide us on that. It will be to be open to the God who is the God who says, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And so as we celebrate, amidst the sadness, being back here today, we celebrate because we know we have a God who comes to rescue us, to take our burdens, and that if we take his yoke, it will be easy and it will give us all that we need to rest in, now and in the future. Amen.